Hello there. We're hearing more about potential food shortages, but it's not just the war. This was in the pipeline months ago. Now I know what the Remoaners will say. It's all down to Brexit then, Jeff. Well, it's not. Here's one report from the Irish Times from last week talking about a tomato, lettuce and pepper supply challenge, and the Republic of Ireland is, as you know, in the European Union. Ireland is experiencing a shortage of glasshouse crops such as tomatoes due to a perfect storm of issues, including rising fuel costs and torrential rains in Spain. And Fruitnet.com said this at the end of last month. Morocco's tomato export curbs are hitting UK retailers and leaving gaps on shelves as the market feels the combined effects of Spain's haulage strike and lower production by British and Dutch greenhouse producers. And MintechGlobal.com says that European tomato prices are soaring as growers face rising input costs. So if it's all down to Brexit, Brexit must be contagious. So now we've got Brexit out of the way and shown that this is a much wider issue, then down to business. Both the tomato and cucumber growers associations in Britain are saying that due to rising costs, there will be a shortage of tomatoes and cucumbers this year. Here's what Euronews.com said last month. In a small corner of southeast England, vast glasshouses stand empty, the soaring cost of energy preventing their owner from using heat to grow cucumbers for the British market. Elsewhere in the country, growers have also failed to plant peppers, aubergines and tomatoes after a surge in natural gas prices late last year was exacerbated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, making the crops economically unviable. And the Express is also reporting the British Tomato Growers Association said that owing to high energy costs, many UK and European growers had opted not to plant energy-intensive winter crops. This means that there would likely be less of a supply of tomatoes before the autumn harvest is reaped. While the Times also says that growers are choosing not to grow cucumbers because of fast rising energy costs. While thegrocer.co.uk reports that at least 50% of the Lee Valley Growers Association's members had already decided not to plant in their greenhouses this year due to rising heating costs. So there'll be no need for labourers to bring those harvests in because there won't be a harvest of some produce. And where tomatoes are concerned, these shortages will hit everything from tinned tomatoes to pizzas to tinned spaghetti to tinned sardines to baked beans. Now, as I said at the start, this is not new. Back in 2021, prior to any thoughts of a Russia-Ukraine war, the British Tomato Growers Association, which represents all British tomato growers supplying major UK supermarkets and retailers, said in a public letter, "The British Tomato Growers Association fully support the recent letter from the British Cucumber Growers Association regarding the current emergency in the economic sustainability of primary food production in the UK and critical concerns for the future of GB production caused by a multitude of economic issues outside the control of growers." And it went on to say, "The current complex of issues is a unique conflation of global, pan-European and UK-specific issues outside the scope of the usual free market drivers, seriously threatening the future of the UK protected food production businesses and jobs as never before." So this was already building last year, and the BGTA didn't specifically mention the pandemic, although it did talk about the threat of the global tomato brown rugose fruit virus. And now, a few months later, we're into a European war involving the world's breadbasket. And if you think this is just tomatoes and cucumbers, well, you'll be in for a shock. SupplyChainDigital.com a couple of weeks ago gave 10 examples of potential shortages, one or two of which I've talked about before. Wheat shortages, North Africa and Central Asia. Canned drinks shortages, North America and Europe. Baby formula shortages, North America and Europe. Cream cheese shortages, the US. Free-range egg shortages, UK. Fruit juice shortages, the US. Pet food shortages, the US, Europe and the Asia-Pacific region. Avocado shortages, US and Europe. Wine, beer and spirits shortages, UK. And of course tomatoes, which Supply Chain Digital said was due to lower UK harvests because tomato growers can no longer afford to heat greenhouses to the same extent as previously because of the price of gas. So it's not just because of the war. It's not about Brexit. It started ages ago. It's not just the UK, and it's now predominantly down to energy costs, which includes transportation, of course. And all that's without the fast rising costs of fertilisers, with most of the components for that coming from Russia. Food is about to become much more expensive and scarce for us in the UK. But for millions around the world it will be unavailable. Now the government wants us all to buy a tape measure and use it to monitor our waist sizes to get it down to half our height for health reasons. Well, we might find that happening naturally as we all pare back on our shopping in the face of rising food prices. The only people who will need to keep an eye on their diet will be the rich and powerful, and MPs eating in their subsidised Westminster Parliament restaurants.